Hi, this is Osiris Munir, writer for the Cover City newspaper, and I have the wonderful pleasure today of talking to Mr. Bruce Lurie of the Bruce Lurie Gallery, located here in Los Angeles, California. He started this gallery in Beverly Hills about 5 years ago, and I remember when they started, myself personally, and I was very impressed with their art. We're going to talk to Bruce today and just talk to him about the art he loves, how it keeps him happy, and how he got into being a gallery owner. Go, Bruce.
My name is Bruce Lurie. Thank you for joining us today. I actually started in New York City in 1984 in Soho. And from Soho, we were there for only 6 months, and we moved to the East Village in the beginning of January, February of 1985, when the East Village art scene was when it was at its most thriving and most important stage. It was a very, very great time to be in the art world. That was when you had Basquiat coming around to the art openings with Warhol and Keith Haring, and all the people who I used to know and shared those early moments of the 80s when the East Village was a huge art market.
Right, and so what prompted you to move from such a glorious scene in New York out here to the West Coast?
Well, unfortunately, what led to me literally moving out was 9/11. Was when I closed the gallery in New York. We had a gallery. We were actually considered the first gallery in Chelsea. It was 1989. I opened up, and in 2001 we closed after 9/11. A lot of the galleries at that time decided it might be the best, most beneficial to close because you never knew how long it would take before the art market would come back in New York. It was a bad time.
And how do you think there's always been this kind of East Coast, West Coast kind of thing going on. Mm-hmm. What do you think makes the West Coast different in terms of its promotion of art and culture? How do you think that? How does that go out here?
It's not that different in the matter. New York sets the trend. I mean, it's worldwide. New York is the capital of the art market. Los Angeles, I believe, is number 2 or 3 in the world in art sales. So Los Angeles is not very far behind. Usually, the trends will start more in LA and New York, and in those two places. But whatever happens in LA then goes to New York. What's in New York comes around to LA. So these are the 2 most important art markets in the United States. Then it would go to Chicago and Santa Fe, which is a small town, which is considered number 6 in the country. Miami, obviously, because of Art Basel, is a huge, huge art market, but it's much more seasonal in Miami. I closed my gallery in Miami in 2008. I had opened up in 2004. I was there for 4 years, but very different mentality of the buyers in Miami, in the Miami art market. Very frustrating, quite honestly, but during the season it's good, but the rest of the year you might as well be closed. When I say season, I mean from October to the end of April, and then the rest of the season with the heat, the humidity, and the snowbirds going back home, you might as well be closed. That was my opinion.
Now talk a little bit more about the 9/11 situation and what happened to the arts in New York. When that 9/11 situation, I don't think people understand the position that art galleries hold in the community and how they are a place for your heart and for the spirit to find some peace. So what happened? Yeah. How did that make you feel as a gallery owner? What did it do to the arts and culture in that area at 9/11?
That's a good question. It was a very frightening time to be in New York. Everyone was on the edge. Personally, my gallery, the lease was up shortly after the Twin Towers came down, and it was my choice to renew my lease or to stick it out. And as it turned out, I feel at the time it was the best move, because it was at least a year to 2 years before we saw any kind of, normalcy to the art market in New York. But at that time, after that, then everyone wanted to be in New York again, because you could rent things incredibly cheaply. Leases were available all Chelsea, and that was what really sprung this incredible art market in Chelsea, where you find hundreds and hundreds of galleries now. But right after 9/11, and, you know, I don't know the percentage, but many galleries obviously closed their doors and moved on, or went into hibernation to wait to see what was going to be the next move in the art world. So.
Oh, that's wonderful to know, and I'm sure people would love to know more about that story.
Yeah.
I also want to ask you, now, what kind of artist do you represent? What turns you on about an artist? What causes you to say, yes, you can, we would like to bring you into the gallery and show?
Sure. We get approached by artists from all over the world constantly. Even on a daily level, I probably get approached by about 10 artists a day walking in our door, probably about another 5 to 10 emailing us. So we are one of the galleries that are always open to looking at new things, because you never know who will walk into the door, who's the next artist. I also encourage young artists to come in and see us, and not just walk in the door, but, you know, email us their information, because we always look, because the next great artist is out there, not having been discovered yet. We'd like to be one of the people who discover the new artists. But the direction of the gallery right now is we represent a lot of abstract artists and pop art, and that's gone in that direction lately. We might have started out a little differently.
You did, yeah.
Yeah, but that's where we are right now. We're known for pop art. We have some incredible artists.
Amazing.
Dan Montiavaro, who's a Puerto Rican artist he lives in New York and LA, just moved out here recently. We have Brian Liebenthal, who's from South Africa, who does amazing work on wood with mixed media, with acrylic and oil mixed with resin. We have a new artist as of last year named Michael Sushta, who does acrylic on reversed glass, 6 and 7 layers of reversed glass comic art.
Wow.
We do not keep them in stock. They're sold sometimes as soon as they walk in the door. They're sold out.
Oh, he must be thrilled to have his work, yeah.
He's a former guy who was in advertising and marketing, who was doing comic art more as a hobby, and also illustrations. That was where his background comes from. And this kind of came out of nowhere, where he started doing these comics. And I saw them at a little tiny art show in San Francisco, and every piece had a red dot on the wall, and I was looking to see how much these were costing. I was like, they were only like $500 each for these incredible pieces of work, and we took them on within 3 months. We were marking up to $1,200, then we were marking to $1,800, now $2,500, and this is only in a year and a half. So,
wow.
And they're going to go way.
Wow.
But we also specialize in sculpture, monumental sculpture, works on paper, photography. We have a great photographer named Jorge Kramer, who just got accepted to the Getty Museum.
Wow.
Which is very exciting.
So you've got famous people budding out of here.
Yeah,
you might find another Jean-Michel Basquiat or another
That's true, but
Andy
the
Warhol.
funny story that you mentioned, Jean-Michel Basquiat, is I was really the first gallery to do a show for Jean-Michel Basquiat.
Oh, I'm a huge fan, fan.
So am I, and I had the pleasure of meeting him, knowing him back in the early 80s, when he was, Leo Castelli, who was obviously representing him, who made him, before he had any show on his resume, was told by Keith Haring to find a gallery in the East Village that you liked, that we could show Basquiat's work, and see if we can get him an art show. So he came into my gallery, Keith Haring and Basquiat, and said, "How do you like this artist's work?" I thought, "Wow, he's great. Who is it?" And Michel Basquiat, nobody knew who he was at that time. And I had these little, not that we're not that little, I had works on paper. I put 5 of them in an art show that were, I would guess there were 30 by 42 works on paper that I sold for $1,500 a piece.
Wow.
I had put a red dot on one that I was going to keep for myself. Someone came and said, "I'll buy all of them." And I said, "No, they're not all for sale, just one of them." But he said, "Well, I want all of them." And I said, "Okay, I'll sell you all of them." And fortunately at the time I did make the sale, but I only wish I had kept on that one piece, because that particular piece now, something comparable, is probably $400,000 to $800,000.
And they just did something, I read in the news a few weeks ago, somebody found a rare piece by Jean-Michel,
Oh, really?
which was wonderful. I have to find out again, find the article. Wow, so you're a bit of a historian, an art historian, and quite famous, I might add, if you were exposed to those kind of people in terms of gallery owners. And I think people would love to know that there were people in New York, and the East Village especially, that were very hip and conscious about art, even though art wasn't as budding now. Now, that leads me into my final question of, all of a sudden, LA, downtown, Culver City, is like booming in terms of artists coming by the droves, it seems. And I don't know if you want to say it's like a change or a switch from New York to LA, where there's more emphasis on the West Coast because of weather or whatever, but as a gallery owner, I'd like to hear, and the audience would like to hear, your opinion about the art scene and the art movement in 2013 and into the future.
Well, LA is, artists seem to be coming out of the woodwork, is absolutely true. But the downtown art scene kind of reminds me of the East Village back in the 80s. I don't believe the sales are anything like they were back then. I mean, there is always going to be some talented artists, but I see, from my perspective, I see a lot of art that, that I always encourage everybody. But I think it's like going into a thrifty store. You got to sift through it.